So I just got back from a little vacation I took over in Disney. Florida. I went there for about 5 days. I went to Magic Kingdom. I went to Universal Studios, and we got to also go to Epcot. And unfortunately, I didn't get to do Hollywood Studios because that was pretty packed out, and they have a really restrict limit and rules to reserving and making sure you can get into parks and whatnot because of everything that's going on. You know, not all restrictions are lifted. So unfortunately, I wasn't able to get to see Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. But, you know, there's always another trip back. And that was my third time in the last, 5 years going to Disney. And I will go back again. It's someplace I love. I'm definitely going to be one of those Disney people. And of course, what happens when you're out there? The question always pops up, what's your favorite Disney film? So I thought I would do a little entry about what I would consider to be my favorite Disney film, and that's Brave. And I would just say, okay, not even my favorite, my top three. But if I had to modernize it and to try to discuss it with people in today's era, Brave would definitely be up there. I would also have to put on that same pedestal films like The Sword and the Stone, which I love. I think that's one of the best Disney films ever, and that's part of my top three. And the other one I would have to say it might be a bit of a tug of war between Aladdin and I don't know, maybe it is just Aladdin. Yeah. Okay, so we'll go with Brave, Aladdin, and The Sword and the Stone, which is nice because they each are a different generation. Sword and the Stone was the 70s, Aladdin was the 90s, and Brave is from 2012. Now, the reason I love Brave most of all is because it's not like a typical Disney film, or even a Disney Pixar film, I should say. It's more along the lines of, say, Toy Story or Wreck-It Ralph. The focus isn't on the music or creating a musical. It's got pretty much one solid song. And other than that, it's just, you're really watching it for the story and for the mythology it's based on. It's obviously based on Irish folklore, and it came out, I feel like it doesn't get enough respect because it came out very close, if not shortly after or before, I can't remember exactly, but it was really, really close to Frozen's release. And for those who remember, Frozen basically took over the world. If you've been to Disney in the last couple of years, you know that Frozen was everywhere. It was the number one song, let it go. I don't even want to go there. All that stuff. Frozen kind of shadowed over anything that had to do with Brave. To me, because I didn't watch this until many, many years later. And it was because the one that they're shoving in everybody's face is Frozen. But Brave is such a superior film. Not in the sense of, the story it's trying to tell, which, every Disney story tries to have an underlining movie plot forwarding or movie plot device or device mechanism, plot mechanism, some way, shape, or form of what I'm trying to say. I'm pretty sure you get what I'm saying. It's just, Brave's undertone is that it's all about the love story between a mother and daughter. And I feel like this really encompasses that. Again, it's based on some form of Irish folklore, which almost every aspect of a Disney film in the last 20 years has some way, shape, or form rooted in some other culture's mythology. Moana comes from Hawaiian mythology. Mulan, I think, has some roots in, Chinese mythology. Then you have Brave, then you have Frozen, then even Beauty and the Beast. Beauty and the Beast is a French folktale, I believe. So they're all rooted in some way, shape, or form to some culture, and I think it's captured very well. One thing that surprised me was that I didn't realize who was voicing a lot of the characters, like Emma Thompson's the mother, and Billy Connolly is the father. And for those who may not know Billy Connolly, just off saying the name and the image not popping into your head, if you ever watched The Boondock Saints, the father. That guy is the same guy who does the voice acting of the father in Brave. So it's very perfect with the people they get. They're not just getting random people to do Irish accents or Scottish accents. They got authentic people to do these voiceovers. There's even people like Craig Ferguson's in there, and he does some voice acting. It's really good how they set up this film, especially with the tone set up by the actors themselves. And it's a really good story. And I don't know much about every every Disney story is rooted in some kind of tale that they took and made for kids. Like, I think we've all heard of the real Cinderella story, where instead of like just being about, oh, she lost a shoe, and it actually goes really deeper into the torturing of Cinderella and what the sisters will do to fit their feet in the shoe. It's very, very dark and very grim stories. So I don't know what Brave's undering mythology is and what the actual story is, but whatever that is, it doesn't overshadow what they did for this film. And it's just great. I think the character is great. I think she is just so much fun to watch. And I remember seeing this and I was like, why didn't I watch this when it came out? And then I looked it up and I was like, oh yeah, Frozen was taking the world by storm. And it's upsetting because the first Frozen isn't that good of a film. And I get that these are made for kids. I get that here I am talking about a cartoon that's made for kids. But again, you have to understand that cartoons aren't just for kids these days. You know what I'm saying? If Disney made films that were just for kids, then they wouldn't be as successful as they are. They make films not for children to enjoy and for adults to appreciate as well. Because who are these kids watching the films with? They're watching the films with their parents or with their uncles or with their grandparents. And here's the thing, I'm at that age where I'm on the verge of becoming a parent, and I grew up with all these other Disney films that set up this world. You know, like you go to Disneyland, you go to Magic Kingdom, you go to Hollywood Studios, and you see all these places that are based off of characters that I grew up with. And unless you expose the kids to that, they're never going to know. They're not going to know who Aladdin is unless you show them the Aladdin film, because Aladdin's not pushed to the forefront. Same thing with Lion King. I mean, well, maybe Aladdin and Lion King are bad examples because they did just do live action adaptations of them. So I guess that kind of have brought it back to the forefront. And that is something smart for Disney to do, to kind of, instead of coming up with new stories, let's just rehash all of our old stories and just make them live action. Which, to be honest, can I get a live action Sword in the Stone? Please. I would like that. If anybody from Disney ever listens to this podcast and you hear this particular entry, please give me a Sword in the Stone live action. I would appreciate it very much. And we all know that we're not going to get live actions for any of these, for anything in the last 20 or 30 years. You're not going to get live actions for. You're not going to get a live action Frozen, or Brave, or Wreck-It Ralph, or Tangled, or any of that stuff. Anything made within the 2000s, you're not getting that until at least 2040. You know, because that's when they're going to recycle everything and just give us all new stories all over again. And I'm also not, trying to shit on anything that they've done so far. I thought the Beauty and the Beast live action was great. I thought the Aladdin live action was enjoyable. I thought the Lion King got way too much flack. And it was actually, I appreciated it a lot for what they did with that film. And I feel like it got a lot of bad press to an extent. And finally watching it, I was like, oh, okay, this is good. But still, I don't think anything really holds a candle to Brave because it's one of a kind. And I get that sometimes you can say that Frozen's the same way, but Frozen's not portrayed in that light. And then when you had Frozen 2 come out, Frozen 2 took it to a whole nother level. And to me, Frozen 2 is superior to Frozen. And then you have films like Moana, which is also vastly superior over both Frozens. In my mind, I think Moana is way more superior. But what pushes things to the forefront? It's the kids. And if the kids get obsessed over a song, over a character, even my wife. My wife is completely obsessed with Frozen. She's got Frozen Funko Pops. We were in Disney. She brought a little Frozen light-up bow that she can put into her hair. Yeah, so there's an appeal that maybe I don't understand. Maybe it's because it just wasn't a film that I thought was worth it. I mean, I'm not going to say worth it. Maybe worth it's a bad phrasing. It just wasn't up to par for what other films are out there and what other films should be getting their appreciation. And I know that there's this concept of, there's always a different love story to be told, and Frozen tells the story of two sisters in love. Well, not in love, I shouldn't say it like that, but two sisters who love each other dearly and who have a really good relationship. So it's sisterly love. Just like Brave is mother and daughter love. Or What's another film? What's another film that we can relate this to? Moana. Moana is her love for the sea and her love for adventure. You know what I mean? Like all these films, in some shape or form, have grown out of the perspective that love is always going to be the prince and the princess, or the damsel in distress and the knight in shining armor. And this film, I think, just embodies that idea, because I always love a good story that kind of shows the turmoils between a mother and daughter, or even say a father and son, and then eventually them kind of like there's the parts in the Man of Steel film that I can relate to, where he's being raised by these people who aren't his parents, and he discovers that he's an alien, and the parents are trying to teach him the right way to like exist in this world. And because of these teachings, even in the moment where his father could be on the brink of death, he tells his son not to save him, because it's more important to save his identity and not expose himself than it is to save my life. And the idea of sacrifice and really the pure identification of love between a parent and their child, I feel, is a story that trumps almost any other kind of love in any film. I just did an entry not too long ago of the Fatherhood film that just came out, starring Kevin Hart, which is another perfect example of that. I just feel like any film that really, the premise is just the idea of a love between a parent figure and a child, the figure that represents their child, whether it be an uncle and the niece, or somebody who is the best friend who takes care of his friend's kid after he dies or something. Any way, shape, or form, that dynamic to me is always a much better story arc, or a much better way of portraying the kind of love that you can see in a film, because a lot of the times you don't see that. And the reason you don't see that is because sometimes certain films portray the parents as being kind of in the background, so to speak. So like, picture the movie like Free Willy. The parents don't really matter in that film. You know what I'm saying? What matters? It's this kid's love for this whale, his passion to free the whale, and the parents, they're kind of like, okay, if we're there for the kid, and the parents don't necessarily matter in the overall story arc. And there's a lot of stories that tell that in different films, where parents just take a back seat to the main story or even the main character. And to me, I like it when parents are in the front seat in a very positive manner, not just in the matter of, say, like, even let's relate it to Harry Potter. In Harry Potter, both of his actual parents are dead, and the people who are his parents treat him like shit. You know what I'm saying? So not only do you have dead parents that he has to live up to, but you have shitty aunts and uncles who treat him like shit. And it's just this portrayal that the parents take a back seat to the main story. And when you put parents in the forefront of a story, I feel, when done the right way, it can lead to a really, really good film. And I think Brave is a great example of that. And that's why I think Brave not only is a superior film to Frozen, but is one of my top 3 favorite Disney films of all time, and I think it deserves a little more respect.